You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
People living with obesity are people, and they deserve the right for treatment and care as much as anyone else. What we need to understand is that obesity is a chronic condition, or a disease, as some people call it. It's not a choice. And this is the bit that people really struggle with, is that people think this is a lifestyle choice and people have done this to themselves. What we now know is the science and the evidence shows us that this isn't a choice. People have genetic predispositions for living with obesity. What we need to do is be a bit more compassionate and caring to people that live with obesity and support them to make healthier choices, not actually just discriminate and tell them that they're doing something wrong when, you know, if I had asthma, for instance, you wouldn't be saying the same thing to me there. But then it's exactly the same.
Usually, if you're going for an operation of some form or other, there'll be often there is a criteria. So my mother, she had a knee operation. They wanted to make sure her blood pressure was right and all these things. This is, I mean, to hear somebody say that obesity isn't a choice just because you've got genetic predisposition to it, it's just exactly why people seem to be legitimizing being overweight. Ozempic has proved that people are overweight because they eat too much. Because Ozempic tells you to stop eating. It makes you think that you've eaten and makes you feel full, so you don't eat. You may be predisposed to anything, but you also have a large percentage of responsibility to make sure that doesn't happen. So absolutely, it is in the patient's best interests, because if you're overweight, it'll take you longer to heal. You're more likely to have complications, the same if you smoke, and also the outcomes are usually better. So for a smoker, if you quit, say 4 weeks before surgery, your 25%, your risk is lower of respiratory complications. So this is literally, of course, it's discriminatory, because you have to decide, you have to prioritise the people that are likely to survive the operations.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good evening, it's 9 p.m. and this is Ben Leo Tonight with me, Alex Armstrong. It is my last night covering for Ben. He'll be back as usual with you all next weekend. But in the meantime, I promise I'll give you all of my upfront opinions and hard-hitting facts tonight on the show. The UK has now surpassed Italy in illegal migrant arrivals. Italy's Prime Minister has slashed illegal crossings by 59%, while ours continue to soar. I'm going to give you the cold, hard facts, so brace yourselves because it's going to sting. And Bev Turner is joining us all the way from Washington, D.C. as she gives us the inside scoop on Trump's impending inauguration. And we'll be giving you an exclusive sneak peek at her interview with Nigel Farage. You won't want to miss that. Plus, as another heartbroken mother tells of her grief after hearing lyrics referencing her son's murder, I'll be asking, is it finally time to ban violent lyrics in music? Also, a leaked report reveals that South Yorkshire police ignored grooming gangs to meet Home Office targets set by the last Labour government. Yeah, they focused on vehicle crimes instead of child protection. Are we headed for the same crisis all over again? Also, I'm joined by the director of the IEA, an institution that Margaret Thatcher claimed had saved Britain. I'm asking him if they can do it all over again. And Sadiq Khan has launched a fresh attack on Donald Trump, claiming that the democratically elected president is part of a wave of resurgent fascism. Surprise, surprise. Maybe it's time for someone to remind the mayor of his place. Stay tuned for that. And of course, tonight I'm joined by my superstar panel, Anansia Rees-Mogg, Diana Moran and Paul Richards, who will be giving their expert opinions on all of tonight's biggest stories. Are Labour importing voters? Next.
Alex, thank you very much and good evening. The top stories. 3 Israeli hostages released from Hamas captivity today have been reunited with their families. Sir Keir Starmer says their release, including British citizen Emily Damari, is wonderful news after months of agony for them and their families. Earlier today, the Red Cross said they were all in good health. All 3 are now currently at the Sheba Hospital in Israel. Emily's mother has thanked everyone who never stopped fighting for her throughout this horrendous ordeal. She says her daughter is finally home. There were chaotic scenes in Gaza City as the 3 female hostages were released after more than 470 days in captivity. Along with 28-year-old Emily's release today are 2 other named hostages, 24-year-old Romy Gonen and 31-year-old Doron Steinbrecher, who were also freed. The Israeli Prime Minister's office says 4 other living hostages will be released in 7 days' time. As the hostages were released after 15 long months, there were cheers and tears from crowds in Tel Aviv. There are still many others yet to be released at a later stage. In response to the ceasefire being enacted earlier today, terror group Hamas fighters gathered in Gaza in order to celebrate. Videos released from the region show members of the Hamas armed wing chanting and celebrating as the delayed truce came into effect this morning. Aid trucks have now been entering into Gaza since the ceasefire was enacted. Displaced Palestinians have now begun returning to their homes, and 90 Palestinians are set to be released today. Thousands of Donald Trump supporters waited for hours in the cold and rain to attend his victory rally taking place today, a day before the president-elect returns to the White House. The soon-to-be 47th president arrived in Washington late last night with his wife Melania, ahead of his inauguration tomorrow. Just a warning, there are some flashing images coming up. Trump is hosting a Make America Great Again rally currently in downtown Washington, although a counter-rally also took place yesterday, with thousands attending that to protest the incoming president. He placed a wreath first earlier on at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier at Arlington National Cemetery today. And TikTok is restoring its service to its 170 million users after President-elect Donald Trump said he would revive the app's access in the US when he returns to power tomorrow. The statement came after US users reported being able to access the Chinese-owned service's website, while the far more widely used TikTok app itself did not appear to be immediately available. The ban had come into force after the US Supreme Court passed a law in April which stated the platform's China-based parent company ByteDance must have sold the platform by today, which it didn't. TikTok thanked the incoming president for providing the necessary clarity and assurance and said the company would work with Trump on a long-term solution that keeps TikTok in the United States safe. This morning, a British government official said there are no current plans to ban TikTok here in the UK. Those are the latest headlines. For now, it's back to Alex.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
All right, do you want the cold, hard facts about illegal immigration in the UK? Well, buckle up, because this is going to sting. Let's start by talking about Giorgia Meloni, Italy's Prime Minister, of course. She's just achieved the lowest illegal immigration figures in Italy since January 2022. That's right, Meloni has slashed illegal immigration by a staggering 59% in just 1 year. 66,000 migrants landed in Italy during that year. And how did she do it? Well, the EU say it was by spending cold, hard cash, funding, training and equipping Tunisian and Libyan coast guards to stop the boats before they even set sail. And let's not forget, Italy is managing the Mediterranean Sea, a body of water so vast it makes our English Channel look like a puddle. But let's turn back to the UK, shall we? That short stretch between Dover and Calais, well, more migrants crossed into Britain than Italy. Well, over 67,500 of them. And that's after we threw 500 million at the French border force to supposedly keep us safe. And for what? More crossings, more chaos, and more failure. But here's the killer stat. between December and January, Italy had just 478 arrivals by sea. And the UK, well, we had a jaw-dropping 3,254. That's a 580% difference. So are Libyan coast guards genuinely more effective than the highly trained, well-equipped and extremely well-funded French coast guards? In further stark contrast, Trump has vowed to launch the largest deportation program in American history, starting on his first day in office tomorrow. The scope of his deterrence is staggering, with an estimated 11 million undocumented migrants and asylum seekers in the US. It's going to be a big job, but I think there's only one man for it. Where's the will? Where there's a will, there's a way, right? But this constant failure to grasp the illegal migration issue is leading to more and more questions and less answers from our government. Disturbingly, all of this news comes at a time when Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner is seriously considering scrapping voter ID rules and potentially exploring granting voting rights to foreign nationals. This raises even more extremely uncomfortable questions for our government, doesn't it? And of course, Elon Musk has gone as far to suggest that Keir Starmer is importing voters, but I possibly couldn't comment. But let's get the thoughts of my panel. We have the head of communications at the popular conservatism brand, Annuncia Rees-Mogg, fitness expert and journalist dubbed the Green Goddess, Diana Moran, and former Labour Special Advisor, Paul Richards. Annunciata, I'll start with you. Look, we've pledged $500 million to the French Coast Guard. The Libyans and the Tunisians are cutting this illegal migration crisis over in North Africa towards Italy by a staggering 69%. What is it? Is it the French Coast Guards being absolutely incompetent, or are we just spaffing money up the wall?
No, I think we have to look at why people want to go to Italy or come here. And we are giving illegal migrants great incentives to come, that you get a hotel, you don't get detained. It's not a punitive way of life. There are benefits available, food allowances, mobile phones, free dentistry, so on and so forth. And Meloni has done an immense job of making it pretty unpleasant to arrive in Italy. And funnily enough, if it's not a nice place to go, people don't want to come.
Yeah, so Paul, it's that deterrence, isn't it? You know, a lot of illegal immigrants seem to think that we're the sort of benefits Britain. They're going to come here, they're going to get a hotel, they might get, extra cash for whatever they need throughout the week. They get a hot meal. That's more than some homeless veterans are getting from our government.
I live in a town where we have some of these, or had some of these hotels. They are not feather-bedded. They are not nice three-star hotels. They're pretty grim. They get a tiny amount of money each day. And, of course, crucially, they're not allowed to go out and work and earn money and pay taxes and be part of society. So, and they're lumped together day after day. It's not an easy option at all in Annunciata. I know you're about to tell me that it is.
The hotels they've taken in Skegness are the ones that our British tourists pay good money to go to, but can't go to because they've all been taken over.
Well, I've said before,
by
we need
illegal immigrants.
that's why we need to.
So disgusting. They would have gone out of business a long time ago.
That's why I think we need to go after the hoteliers who are profiteering.
But the hoteliers are being paid by the government. Surely that's just good
I know,
business, right?
Well, I think.
Would you not accept that?
I think they're profiteering, and I think actually they should be taxed on that because they're just making a lot of millions of pounds out of other people's misery.
Yeah, but then we're taxing money that the government has also just paid out of the coffers.
We need to.
And they'll add it to the government's bill and make.
We need to remove that business model where you could just empty your hotel, your struggling hotel, just fill it full of people and get money off the state.
Hotels, they
well, the ones I'm talking about
are business, because obviously tourism in this country is seasonal. And most people don't want to go to.
They're profiteering. They're profiteering. You know they are.
Diana, I want to bring you into this. I mean, look, Elon Musk has said Keir Starmer's importing voters. Do you agree with that?
It could be that he's doing that, but certainly just going back to the hotel business, I visit Somerset, which I know you're from, and various other parts, and these beautiful hotels are not able to take holiday makers just at the moment. It seems so wrong to me that the ordinary man in the street who's working as hard as he can do wants to take his family off on a holiday and he can't because all of these immigrants are in the hotel. And, of course, the standard of the hotel is going down, down, down all the time.
Paul, surely, look, I mean, if Maloney can do it in the Mediterranean Sea, what is it that's stopping us? Because it's a tiny stretch of water.
It's not tiny. That's the whole point. I've heard people like
to the Mediterranean Sea.
I've heard people from Reform Party, for example, saying, "Oh, just put the Royal Navy into the English Channel somehow." It's a vast amount of space that you can't police in that way. What you have to do is what the government is trying to do, which is to disrupt the gangs before the boats get anywhere near the ocean. If you can stop the boats going anywhere near the sea, then you might stand a chance.
We've paid money over there to the French to stop the gangs from putting them on the boats.
And smashing the gangs has thoroughly failed already. Illegal immigration via the Channel is up over 20% just since Labour
So are deportations, though. The deportation rates are the highest ever. You'll accept that?
A deterrent, whether you like
wasn't
it or not.
A deterrent.
It was shown
wasn't
to be
a deterrent
before it even started. It was
cost millions and didn't work.
And numbers have gone through the roof. Some gangs might be smashed, but the thing is, it is a tetra. It has another head that will crop up elsewhere.
A hydra?
Well, that's what we're seeing, isn't it?
Thank you.
That's what we're seeing in Annunciata. We're seeing reports that even though Maloney has smashed some of the gangs, so to speak, in the North African part of the world, they're just moving. Yeah. Just moving around. They're going through Turkey now.
The money is very attractive.
What is the answer?
Well, the question is...
Because I think smashing the gangs is a good start, but if there's a better idea, let's hear it.
We do have to do it, but surely there's got to be more we can do.
And each government...
You've got to scrap the incentive of people to, A, risk their lives.
Make the country terrible, so nobody wants to come here.
12 months on record.
I mean, the Tories did try that.
Dying in the Channel, and we should think of their lives and their well-being. We should scrap the attractiveness of risking life and paying criminals money.
That means smash the gangs, though. That's what smashing the gangs is.
Diana, to stop the boats coming across, they must see the boats leaving the French shore.
Well, Diana, do you think that the incentive is just too high for illegal immigrants to come in? Do you think why on earth would they not want to come to the UK? Because it seems to me like we are the softest touch in Europe.
I would agree with you. They've got money when they come here. They've got food immediately. They've got a bed. They've got, when you
priority
look at...
NHS?
No.
Yes, that's true.
No, they do not get priority.
Private. Some cases they're getting private doctors. Yes, they are. We saw that in Altrincham,
the same access to the NHS as everybody else.
They do not get a priority.
They
are. They did. Altrincham in Manchester.
Based on need.
Even said it. Well, that's still a priority access pool.
And what's the alternative to giving them food, letting them starve?
Even when you come to the studios here, we come past certain areas. I'm not going to point them out now.
Yes, I know which ones you mean.
And the tentage is there with perhaps...
Well, that's not a hotel then, is it? That's people living in tents.
Or are these English people who are having to live in the tents?
No, they're not.
Well, Annunciata, we do have a massive homelessness crisis in the UK. Should we not be spending these billions that we're spending on illegal migrants on them first before we look for charity elsewhere?
Of course, we should be looking after our own before we try and solve the rest of the world's problems.
Yes.
But most of these migrants are economic migrants. We have people in this country who are struggling and who are suffering, and our money and our taxpayer funds should go towards them. We have to make sure our own people are OK before we can rescue the whole world.
Right, I absolutely agree with you, but unfortunately that's all we've got time for in this first half. But my panel's going to be back later, as you all know. But now, a very big change of tune. It's time for our biggest Great British giveaway this year, and your chance to win £50,000 in tax-free cash. It's the biggest cash prize we've ever given away, and it could all be yours. Here are all the details you need to win that whopping 50k cash.
There's just 2 weeks left to grab your chance to win our biggest cash prize so far. £50,000 in tax-free cash. How would you react if you won?
Oh my God.
That's a big surprise.
Amazing. Just the best feeling ever.
I'm in shock. That is absolutely fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
For another chance to win £50,000 cash, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Yes, good luck. But coming up next, tonight's head-to-head, as another bereaved mother is shattered by musical lyrics glorifying the murder of their child. Should lyrics that glorify violence and celebrate those murders be banned here in Britain? I certainly think so. But this is Ben Leo Tonight with me, Alex Armstrong. See you then.
Lee Anderson's Real World, Fridays from 7 p.m.
Aaron McLean, the goal machine here, used to play for Peterborough United. You bagged loads of goals for them back in the day. But I've got a bone to pick with you, young man. You scored at the City ground against Nottingham Forest for, was it Hull City?
For Hull City, yeah.
Why did you do that?
Well, that was my job, unfortunately. I must say, that was actually one of my favourite goals.
Was it really?
Because I remember, obviously, playing at the City ground, unbelievable stadium, historic.
It is great.
So, and we beat you 1-0.
OK, no need to rubbish it. These sports clubs, whether it's football or rugby or whatever, should offer two alternatives, either a professional footballer, or if you don't quite make it, you can still go and play football at a lower level, but have a career as well, maybe be an electrician or a plumber.
100%. You know, listen, I've had multiple conversations with various different people, whether it's the PFA or whether it's clubs. Even players who do have careers, you know, there's so many that don't make it and don't quite make it to the level or only play at a lower level. There's so many that do have long careers, but once you come to the end of that, you've spent, you know, for me, I spent 20 years as a professional footballer. Once I finished playing, what do you then do for the rest of your life? You know, at 35, once you retire, you still have to have a purpose in life. Yeah. But I'd almost be starting from ground zero. I'm fortunate that I went into coaching and then went into the media.
That's good.
But for every one of me, there's hundreds that don't. And I've got so many friends who, I've got to say, you know, have really, really struggled on the, you know, mental health side.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually, because you go from, like, playing in stadiums, big stadiums, small stadiums, crowds, singing your name, and all that sort of stuff, that adulation, the buzz of winning games, and, you know, the downs of losing games, and you go from that to sort of nothing when you finish. I mean, that's a big come down there.
It's a huge come down.
GB News, the People's Channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This January, history will be made again.
Join GB News as we bring you full coverage of Donald Trump's presidential inauguration.
From the swearing-in ceremony to the celebrations, we'll be there to capture every moment that shapes the next chapter of world politics.
The best guests, live updates and unparalleled insight as Donald Trump becomes the 47th President of the United States. The inauguration tomorrow from 3 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. I've got some live pictures from Washington as Donald Trump prepares to speak at his rally ahead of inauguration tomorrow. Let's have a look. The president-elect is set to speak to supporters. It's his first such event in the nation's capital since his address at the Ellipse on January 6, 2021. That's shortly before the Capitol incident, if you remember. Earlier, he and Vice President-elect J.D. Vance laid wreaths at the tomb of the unknowns in Arlington National Cemetery. We'll be live to Washington shortly, and we'll bring live pictures when Trump takes the stage too. This is Ben Leo Tonight with me, Alex Armstrong. It's now time for our head-to-head. Sharon Kendall, a mother who lost her son Jason Isaacs in 2017 in a violent knife attack, had to listen in court this week to the killer sing about the knife attacks in drill music rap, which was produced 12 months before the attack. This comes just days after convicted killer Jake Fahey was recalled to prison after he shocked the nation by performing lyrics boasting of how he murdered 16-year-old Jimmy Mizzen back in 2008. Unbelievably, Fahey's platform had recently been publicised on the BBC. So, as fears grow that music glorifying violence is encouraging violent attacks across the UK, should lyrics that celebrate murders be banned? Well, let me know your thoughts. I'm really keen to hear from you on this one. You can go to gbnews.com/yoursay or tweet me at Alex H. Armstrong. And while you're there, why not vote in our daily poll? I'll bring you those results in just a few minutes. But joining me now is retired Met Police Officer Chris Hobbs and Communications Manager of Ladies of Liberty Alliance, Jess Gill. OK, guys, look, Chris, I'd like to start with you. How many more grieving mothers do you think it's going to take before enough is enough and we put into law that these glorifying violence lyrics are banned?
I think I've got some reservations about generally censoring music and even censoring drill music. But I think there is a line to be drawn. And I think with the recent example we had, that crossed it. Also, what we see on a lot of drill music is a celebration of violence. We do see instances where people celebrate someone being stabbed or shot dead, or even where threats are being made to rival gang members. And I can name them and I can name the gangs. And of course, what this does is ratchets up the tension between the gangs, and that tends to lead or has led to further violence. And we've had examples, haven't we, of gang videos, drill music videos being used as evidence in order to convict people who've been responsible for shootings and stabbings. Having said all that, I also think that there is a place, to be quite honest, for some drill music, because life out there is raw, it's difficult, it's dangerous for a lot of youngsters in the big cities, including parts of London. So I don't think we could say, and I was asked this originally when I was asked to come on the programme, that we should ban all drill music. I think drill music has a place, but there is a line in the sand that has to be drawn with certain videos. And certainly this particular rapper massively crossed that line by a mile.
Yeah, Jess, look, there's been a huge spike in knife crime, particularly here in London. Do you not think we have a moral obligation to do something about this legally now? It's just gone past the point of no return. Lots of young kids are turning to drill music. They find it cool. There's lots of them out on the streets now covering their faces. A lot of that is glorified also in drill music. I'm not saying we should specifically ban drill music, but clearly a lot of the culture and language used is highly damaging to young people.
No, I think you make a very good point. I
just want to pass that one over to Jess, if that's all right, Chris.
Yeah, because many of the key rappers who I can name, and I'm sure your other guests can name, are household names as far as the youngsters are concerned.
Yes, correct.
You can get rappers who rack up hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of views. There's one very famous conflict between two gang rappers in northwest London. Again, your guest will probably be able to name them as well as I can. And their conflict on one video racked up 10 million views. So these gang rappers, some of whom have been shot dead, many of whom are languishing in prison, but they are role models, they are heroes for a lot of young people. You'd have to say, is that desirable? But in terms of some of the drill music that portrays life at the sharp end of living in parts of London, with youngsters who have to live with this gang violence on a daily basis. Some of it has its place. Clearly, some of it doesn't. And certainly gang rappers who glorify violence, who live by violence, to publicise them, I think that has to be carefully looked at.
Jess, I want to bring you in. Do you think we have a moral obligation here? Shouldn't we do something about this? Knife crime is spiking. What should we do, Jess?
Well, as you can probably tell, I'm not the target demographic for that kind of music. However, I think it's just mostly common sense. I don't think we need to ban it. I just think it shouldn't be played on the BBC, and I would hope the BBC would have that common sense not to showcase it. But I also want to address the elephant in the room here. We wouldn't have to ban this music if it wasn't for one, a decrease in community policing, and two, above all, the mass immigration that we've seen, where people who like this type of music are coming over here, who are installing these values and showcasing this. The problem is with banning this type of music, we're addressing the symptoms rather than the cause itself. This wasn't an issue 10, 20, 30 years ago. At least it wasn't to the same extent. And the reason is because we're importing so many people with these values who are perpetuating this kind of violence.
Chris, would you agree with that assessment from Jess there? Do you think this is a problem of imported culture rather than a homegrown problem here in the UK?
Well, it's certainly, drill music's been imported from America, particularly from Chicago. So that, yeah, that is a fact. We can't escape from that. There's other sorts of music as well that can glorify unpleasant attitudes. I'm thinking of Jamaican dancehall music, for example. My ringtone is a Jamaican music dancehall ringtone, but that can talk about misogyny, the way people treat women, Chitty Man burning of gay people. So there's all sorts of issues, I think, around all sorts of music. I think at the moment, a lot of the drill music in this country is homegrown. It's based on the stuff that comes from America, but we have got people who write drill music. And as I said, some of it, I can't understand a lot of it because it's in street speak, but some of it is quite good, some of it. But as I say, some of it glorifies violence, and you would have to say a line has to be drawn. Police are very much aware of it. But that video that's caused the recent controversy, the day after the controversy was all over the press, all over the media, it was still up there on YouTube.
Well, this is a good point, Chris. I just want to give final word to Jessica because we're running out of time. But, you know, we saw the police go after people for tweets, right? Tweets and social media posts. Surely the same should just be applied to music. What's the difference, Jess?
Well, I think they shouldn't go after people for tweets and social media posts. I think that's
but is it two-tier, though? Is it two-tier, treating art differently?
Yeah, I absolutely think it. Yeah, I absolutely think it's two-tier, but again, I don't think we should ban. I don't think we should ban either. I think we just need to address the actual root causes of this, and the root cause of this kind of music is the mass immigration coming over here and perpetuating this type of culture within their communities as well.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, look, thank you very much for coming on tonight, guys. We're going to have to leave it there, but I'm sure we'll have a lot more from this topic coming forward in a few days and weeks coming up. OK, thank you. Coming up next, as a leaked IOPC report finds British police forces with grooming gangs on their patch, prioritising crimes over grooming gangs due to government targets. Have we really learned from those mistakes? I'm going to dig into that with you guys. This is Ben Leo Tonight with me, Alex Armstrong, only on GB News.
Hello there, very good evening to you. This is your GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. Hope you've had a lovely weekend, though count yourself lucky if you have seen some sunshine. Most of us have been plagued by gloomy and grey skies, and this is continuing into this evening and overnight. There'll be some outbreaks of light rain and drizzle around, particularly for Northern Ireland and Western Scotland. Eastern Scotland, other areas of England and Wales could see the cloud breaking at times tonight, but underneath those clearer spells, temperatures will drop off and we could see some patchy frost around to start off Monday morning. Even if you don't see the frost, it is certainly going to be a chilly start to the new week for the vast majority of us. There could be also some mist and fog patches around first thing, so it is just worth taking a little care when you're travelling back to work on Monday morning in case those are around. These outbreaks of rain then will be across coastal areas of County Down, stretching into Dumfries and Galloway in the central belt of Scotland first thing on Monday. Northern and western areas of Scotland starting to see some clearer and brighter spells developing, and really it is northern Scotland that has the greatest chance of seeing some sunshine on Monday. This will be coming though with some showers that will start feeding into the far northwest. Some of those could be quite heavy at times, with some hail, even thunder in the mixture as well. The outbreaks of rain just pushing their way into northern England, stretching into parts of Wales as well. Otherwise, it is once again going to be a largely cloudy day. Temperatures ranging between 4 and 9 degrees Celsius. On Tuesday, we see an area of low pressure just push its way a little bit further towards the northwest of the UK, and an included front here will help to pep up some of those showers across northwestern areas of Scotland in particular. So again, it's a case of scattered showers with some brighter or sunnier spells here once any of that morning fog clears its way off. We've got another band that will still be lingering across more central and northern areas of England into Tuesday, but perhaps elsewhere, Tuesday will see the greater chance of some sunshine developing at times. But it won't last for too long, because into the rest of next week it is likely to turn more unsettled with some disruption on Friday and Saturday. Bye-bye.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Now I'm showing you the latest live pictures from Washington, D.C. as Donald Trump prepares to speak at his rally ahead of his inauguration tomorrow. The president-elect is set to speak imminently at his first such event in the nation's capital since 2021, shortly before that infamous Capitol incident. Earlier, he and the Vice President-elect J.D. Vance laid wreaths at the Tomb of the Unknowns in Arlington National Cemetery. We'll be live to Washington with our very own Bev Turner very soon. You're not going to want to miss that. And we'll bring you live pictures when Trump takes the stage, so stay tuned. Well, next, police ignored grooming gangs in favour of prioritising other crimes in a desperate attempt to meet Home Office targets set by the previous Labour government. That's according to a leaked report. The report by the Independent Office for Police Conduct was completed in 2022, but never published. It reveals that senior officers in South Yorkshire Police prioritised vehicle burglaries and robbery crimes to keep up with Home Office targets that focused on those specific offences throughout the 2000s. Officers reportedly favoured these cases as they were specific types of crime assessed by central government, unlike child sexual exploitation and grooming. So, with a fresh Labour government back in Downing Street, could target cultures come back to bite us now and in the future? To learn more, I now welcome social policy analyst Dr. Rakib Ehsan. Dr. Rakib, thank you very much. Listen, Keir Starmer was up quite recently talking about his new plan for change. And as part of that plan for change, he said, we're going to have more targets in policing. It gets me worried when I hear that and I see things like that leaked report. Do you think we're heading to something similar again? Have we learnt the lessons?
Well, Alex, I certainly share your concern. And I think this particular story really shows the destructive nature of that target-based culture. And I find it absolutely remarkable that you could have a police force ultimately, because of this target-based culture, prioritising vehicle crimes, burglary and robbery. Now, I'm not trivialising the seriousness of those crimes, but if that particular police force is ultimately has Rotherham falling under its jurisdiction, that was the epicentre of our group localised child sexual exploitation scandal, which is very much a nationwide one. And I think that this particular police force has a great deal to answer for in terms of how it's failed, in my view, well over 1,000 white British working class girls. And I think that on top of that, with this revelation as well, it shows that there's a destructive culture in the Home Office as well in the past. And I think that when it comes to that target-based culture, what you really want to encourage police forces is to ultimately protect the most vulnerable in society and address the very most serious crimes.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you. I mean, we've had, so many politicians come out recently and say, oh, no, we had these reforms. The government heralded Keir Starmer's reforms while he was at the CPS. Do you still think, though, despite all of those reforms and all these promises to do something, that trust in the police is so low now that actually people might not come forward? Of course, that whistleblower claimed, allegedly, that she claimed that they might have sued her had she come forward with this information. So is trust in our police just completely demoralised?
Well, I think that trust in our police, if you really look at recent trends, it's spectacularly low. And I think it's a real shame, because I think back in the day where you had that almost a wholesome model of neighbourhood policing, where police force are almost seen as part of the local community, I think now you have this term police-community relations. And I think that really shows that there's a real separation there between police forces and the local communities that they serve, especially the most vulnerable members within those local communities. And I think that the real worry is you could introduce a model of neighbourhood policing to tackle heinous crimes such as street-based grooming by organised networks. But I think that there's such a lack of trust in terms of police really addressing those crimes, that the possibility that they're turning a blind eye. Now, there could be a variety of reasons for that. It could be class-based prejudice. They simply think that those working class victims are not worthy of protection. Or there's also that fear within police forces that they don't want to rock the multicultural boat. So I think that there's so many problems that we could talk about models of policing, but we really need to talk about the culture within police forces as well, Alex. That very much holds the key.
Yeah, and what do you think it is about modern culture in police forces that has caused us to get into this mess in the first place? And, you know, in my experience, and from speaking to ex-police from my time working on GBNews and places like this, it seems to me that there's this massive culture of paperwork, writing everything down. They just don't want to get bogged down anymore. They just want to get out on the beat and do their job. Do you think that's going to change anytime soon? Are we going to finally get coppers actually back on the streets? Keir Starmer's pledging these community support officers, thousands more of them. Is that going to make a difference?
Well, I think that it can make a difference if the right culture accompanies the restoration of neighbourhood policing. I think it's about those cultural values within police force. And I don't want to tarnish all police officers. I think there's a great many police officers who ultimately they will put themselves in the line of danger for the betterment of society at large. But I think that it's a very important question you asked there, Alex, about why I think much of this took place. And I talk about this classist multicultural state that we have. I do think that within certain police force, in terms of approaching these grooming gang cases, there was that class-based bigotry towards many of those working class victims. And I think that there was also those racial and religious sensitivities at play, which really paralyzed those police forces in really taking action. And I think that what we need the police forces and other public bodies as well is to return to the bread and butter of prioritising protection of the very most vulnerable in our society, because that's a true marker of an advanced civilised society.
Well, I couldn't agree more with you on that. I mean, look, it's not fair to just blame this entirely on Labour, because the Tories, of course, as well, were in government for 14 years. And during some of that time, these whistleblowers have come forward and then allegedly, you know, have been threatened to be sued for releasing this kind of information. Is this just a structural problem within our civil service and beyond in the police force, where, you know, this sort of stuff is constantly shoved under the carpet? And what do you think we need to do about it? You know, is this national inquiry the answer?
Well, I think a statutory inquiry could go a long way. And I have to say, I'm disappointed with Labour's, in my view, toothless alternative of this 5 local inquiries along with a 3-month national audit. That's insufficient, in my view. That doesn't amount to a full-scale, proper national public investigation that we need, which also has those statutory powers where you could compel witnesses to attend and take evidence under oath. But we can't let the Conservatives off. They had 14 years in power, no national inquiry either. And to be fair, when it comes to working class misery in Northern England, the Tory record's not very strong on that front.
Yeah, and, you know, we've seen lots of politicians coming out very strong on this. We're seeing splits maybe within the Labour Party about having this national inquiry. Do you think politicians are ultimately responsible? Because at the end of the day, they could call a national inquiry today if they wanted to. But we seem to be playing this political football. Do we not need to all stand up and say, we don't care about your political parties, we care about the victims? It would be very refreshing if I heard that, I'd be very refreshed to hear it. What do you think? Do we need to actually write to our politicians and get them to change their tune?
Well, I just don't understand how we can't have cross-party consensus over this. And I think that there's fresh polling from JL Partners, which showed that 3 in 4 members of the British public would support a national public inquiry. So by not holding one, they're being very disrespectful towards mainstream public sentiment. If you want to call it, that is the centrist position, supporting a national public inquiry. But I think, crucially, by not doing so, I think they're showing a lack of respect towards the victims and survivors of these heinous crimes, which are very much taking place on a nationwide basis.
Yeah, I would love nothing more than for justice to be served for those poor people. Dr. Akif, thank you so much for joining us today. We're moving on now. I've got to read a statement here from a spokesperson for the IOPC. I need to say that properly. The welfare of survivors was our top priority throughout Operation Linden. Any release of information into the public domain was painstakingly coordinated so as not to unduly or adversely impact their well-being and safeguarding. That is why we produced one overarching report for Operation Linden, which involved 91 separate investigations detailing our findings and recommendations. In publishing our findings in 2022, we made clear that South Yorkshire Police failed to protect vulnerable children and young people at that time and should have done better in responding to the reports of child sexual abuse. The force acknowledged those failings and the focus remains on learning from those mistakes. A spokesperson for South Yorkshire Police has said the terms of reference for the IOPC investigation is set by them. The decision on whether to publish the report is entirely a matter for the IOPC. OK, well, coming up, the Institute of Economic Affairs think tank was once hailed by Margaret Thatcher as having saved Britain. Can they do it again? Their executive director, Tom Clougherty, is live in the studio next to reveal all this. Is Ben Leo Tonight with me, Alex Armstrong, only on GB News.
I hope it doesn't rain.
Don't worry about it.
It'll spoil our holiday.
Relax, we're totally covered.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello. Well, if it's some winter sunshine you're after across Europe, it's not all that promising. There's a lot of unsettled weather around. So there's heavy spells of rain across parts of Madeira and Spain and Portugal with this area of low pressure. Another area of low pressure across central Mediterranean, bringing outbreaks of rain, strong winds and even some mountain snow. Best of the sunshine really confined towards Eastern Europe, otherwise staying largely unsettled. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Now, we're going to introduce you to Liam Wildish. Liam, well, I'd like to think he's a friend of mine because I follow him on Instagram, on TikTok there as well.
You're a big fan, aren't you?
Big fan, because there's what he does. He's a cleaner. He cleans signs. But the thing is, he's not employed by councils or whatever. He does this voluntarily. And you sort of think to yourself, well, who cleans these signs? Why have these signs been allowed to get into this terrible state of disrepair and filthiness?
So basically, long story short, about 6 years ago, I used to be a window cleaner. In the community where I lived, I noticed all of the road signs were filthy, and I was perfectly equipped to clean them. So basically, I cleaned the road signs as a bit of a thank you to the community and sort of make a little bit of awareness of my window cleaning business at the time. Yeah. Sort of cleans up the area, makes the road safer, and that's kind of how that started. And people found it like a really satisfying sort of approach. So that sort of led on to today of a video in cleaning the dirty road signs and making sort of satisfying content with it as well.
What is the equipment? What have we got here?
So this is a water-fed pole system connected to a backpack, which is what feeds the water through the end of the brush there. It's perfectly equipped to basically remove this green dirty, it's like a mildew build-up that you get on the signs. Yeah. As you can see, this is like extremely effective at removing so.
So GB News viewers, if they spot a particularly grisly sign in their area, then they can get in touch.
They can do, yeah.
And Liam Wildish, the sign guy, can sort you out.
if you find Liam, the sign guy, online, drop me a message, let me know, and I'll add you to my list of places.
GB News, the People's Channel.
headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
down to earth,
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
and most importantly, honest,
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Yes, welcome back. Now I'm showing you the latest live pictures from Washington as Donald Trump prepares to speak at his rally ahead of his inauguration tomorrow. The president-elect is set to speak imminently at his first such event in the nation's capital since 2021. That's shortly before that infamous Capitol incident. They won't let us forget it. We'll be live in Washington with our very own fantastic Bev Turner very soon, and we'll bring you those live pictures when Trump takes to the stage. But and joining me now, the Institute of Economic Affairs Director Tom Clougherty. The Institute of Economic Affairs describes itself as a free market think tank promoting free thought. Indeed, Maggie Thatcher herself declared the IEA to be the think tank that saved Britain. So, with Britain battling low growth alongside a growing state, can they save Britain again? Tom, welcome to the show. Well, but no better than Margaret Thatcher to say you saved Britain. Now, listen, we've had many, many years now of high taxes, low growth, including from the Conservative Party, which used to be Margaret Thatcher's party, of course. Do you think she'd be spinning in her grave at the state of our politics when it comes to the economy?
I think there probably are many things that have happened over the last decade and a half that would have left the sainted Maggie spinning in her grave. I mean, she was very generous. If indeed she did say that we saved the economy, I think she probably had something to do with that herself. I think, look, what the IEA did and what the IEA needs to do again is provide the ideas that make that kind of radical change possible. Because in my view, and I doubt I'm in a minority here when I say this, I think we face some absolutely gigantic, seemingly intractable economic challenges at the moment. And you pointed to a few of them, but we've had practically no growth since the financial crisis. Incomes in real terms are basically where they were in 2007. This is crazy. There are people in their 20s, late 20s, maybe even early 30s, who've never really experienced economic growth. It can't go on like that for long, especially when you have an ageing population, a growing government, all of these big burdens. Something has to change quite radically, and we're in the business of coming up with those kinds of ideas.
All right. Let's hear it. What's the big idea? Like, what have we got to do? Come on, Tom. Give us some facts.
I mean, here's the thing. I wish there was one silver bullet.
Yeah.
One solution which you could just retail and say, do this, one neat trick, and Britain is saved. I think we've had years of neglect, effectively. We've had years of drift. And so it's not one big thing. It's hundreds of small things. I think really we have to look across the entire economy. We have to look for barriers to growth everywhere we can find them, and we have to start eliminating them. We have to start reforming them. I mean, energy, you need huge change. Housing, you need huge change. I think we're tied up in red tape. We've developed a kind of bureaucratic state, this all-encompassing bureaucracy that just suffocates everything.
Is this what Liz Truss is sort of alluding to with her deep state theories? Is this really the problem Britain's got? We're just so tied down by all these what people call quangos, which are those extra government institutions with loads of power now. Are they killing the country, economically speaking?
To a certain extent, I think they are. I think it's wrong in a way to think of it as the deep state and as if it's some sort of conspiracy. I don't think that there is some sort of conspiracy. It's more, it's the old thing, cock up or conspiracy. We've got an awful lot of cock up going on in Britain at the moment, and I don't think people are sitting there conspiring to try and make things worse. For the most part, people in Whitehall mean well. They want the best for the country. They don't know what they're doing, unfortunately. So we have to get to the root of it. We have to really liberate the economy. We have to transform the state. Without doing those two things, really the future looks rather bleak.
Indeed. Well, look, Tom, as well, I think some people would say will be critical of the IEA for not lifting off. You know, where you should be getting in there and grabbing these politicians and going, well, this is our answer to things. Would you say that's a fair critique of your institution? You think you're being ignored by the major parties?
Well, no, first of all, I don't think so. Secondly, I think these things do take time, right? And I should also stress we're an educational charity. We're not a partisan think tank. So, you know, the demand for ideas, in a way, it will take care of itself, because the thing with bad ideas, unsustainable ideas, is eventually they run out of road and people seek an alternative. Our job basically is to make sure that that alternative exists, that it's ready and it's there, and we can teach people about that, and we can try and win them over to those ideas. And look, you know, frankly, I thought we would labour in obscurity for a few years with this new government, with a big majority, with a social democratic agenda that they would be pursuing. And I thought, well, you know, give it 2 years, give it 3 years. I think the wheels will start to come off. I think people will see that this government actually doesn't have the answers. They're pretty much doing the same things the Tories did for all of those years, and they're getting the same results. Now, this whole process has happened remarkably quickly. I can't believe that we're in this position so soon where people are starting to think, this is not working. We need another kind of radical change, something very different. And so you're right, there's a big role for the IEA and organisations like the IEA, but we just have to come up with the ideas. It's up to other people to implement them.
Well, look, I mean, there's obviously much heralding of Trump coming into America tomorrow. He's going to be the new president. He's going to have his new economic agenda. There's lots of people thinking this is going to be great for Britain, but there's some who are more critical, saying that these trade tariffs might damage or destroy our economy. What do you think about Trump coming in?
I think his trade policy is terrible, to the extent that it's a real policy and not just a rhetorical tool, and that remains to be seen. I think even if he is terrible on trade overall, maybe he'll be good for Britain, maybe he'll want a free trade deal with the UK, but there are some very interesting things about Trump's economic policy, in my view. I think particularly this Department of Government Efficiency. Let's hope it's a real thing and not just an internet meme. But I think having someone like Elon Musk involved in government, saying he's going to cut a third of federal expenditure, that he's going to cut $2 trillion out of the federal budget. If he can do that and show that it's possible, that's good news for us.
Tom, thank you so much for coming on. Fascinating stuff. I'm sure we're going to hear more about that as it gets even worse for the British economy. Anyway, coming up, I'll bring you the very first of tomorrow's front pages after Bev Turner beams in live from Washington, D.C. But before all that, Sadiq Khan is slamming Trump for resurging fascism. I'll bring you more about that after the break.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, very good evening to you. This is your GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. Hope you've had a lovely weekend, though count yourself lucky if you have seen some sunshine. Most of us have been plagued by gloomy and grey skies, and this is continuing into this evening and overnight. There'll be some outbreaks of light rain and drizzle around, particularly for Northern Ireland and Western Scotland. Eastern Scotland, other areas of England and Wales could see the cloud breaking at times tonight, but underneath those clearer spells, temperatures will drop off and we could see some patchy frost around to start off Monday morning. Even if you don't see the frost, it is certainly going to be a chilly start to the new week for the vast majority of us. There could be also some mist and fog patches around first thing, so it is just worth taking a little care when you're travelling back to work on Monday morning in case those are around. These outbreaks of rain then will be across coastal areas of County Down, stretching into Dumfries and Galloway in the central belt of Scotland first thing on Monday. Northern and western areas of Scotland starting to see some clearer and brighter spells developing, and really it is northern Scotland that has the greatest chance of seeing some sunshine on Monday. This will be coming though with some showers that will start feeding into the far northwest. Some of those could be quite heavy at times, with some hail, even thunder in the mixture as well. The outbreaks of rain just pushing their way into northern England, stretching into parts of Wales as well. Otherwise, it is once again going to be a largely cloudy day. Temperatures ranging between 4 and 9 degrees Celsius. On Tuesday, we see an area of low pressure just push its way a little bit further towards the northwest of the UK, and an included front here will help to pep up some of those showers across northwestern areas of Scotland in particular. So again, it's a case of scattered showers with some brighter or sunnier spells here once any of that morning fog clears its way off. We've got another band that will still be lingering across more central and northern areas of England into Tuesday, but perhaps elsewhere Tuesday will see the greater chance of some sunshine developing at times. But it won't last for too long, because into the rest of next week it is likely to turn more unsettled with some disruption on Friday and Saturday. Bye-bye.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
There's just 2 weeks left to grab your chance to win our biggest cash prize so far. £50,000 in tax-free cash. How would you react if you won?
Oh my God.
That's a big surprise.
Amazing. Just the best feeling ever.
I'm in shock. That is absolutely fantastic.
Thank you.
For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Will, please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
This January, history will be made again.
Join GB News as we bring you full coverage of Donald Trump's presidential inauguration.
From the swearing-in ceremony to the celebrations, we'll be there to capture every moment that shapes the next chapter of world politics.
With best guests, live updates and unparalleled insight as Donald Trump becomes the 47th President of the United States. The inauguration tomorrow from 3 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening, it's 10 p.m. and this is Ben Leo Tonight with me, Alex Armstrong. Yes, it's my final night covering for Ben. He's going to be back with you as usual next weekend. But in the meantime, I promise I will give you all of my upfront opinions and hard-hitting facts on this show. Tonight, Sadiq Khan has launched a fresh attack on Donald Trump, claiming that the democratically elected president is part of a wave of resurgent fascism. Who does the mayor think he is? And we'll be live in Washington as Donald Trump prepares to take to the stage for his first major speech in the US Capitol since January 6, 2021. Bev Turner is on her way there. Bev, can you hear me?
That's right, Alex. Yes, I can. I should have been outside the Capital One Arena today, where the victory rally is taking place for Donald Trump, but the city has ground to a halt. I'm currently in the back of a cab. Every crossroads is blocked with security, understandably because of the inauguration tomorrow, but also in the last 15 minutes, the snow has come down in the most extraordinary way. We talk about extreme weather all the time on GB News, but it doesn't compare to this, let me tell you. And this is what the forecasters have been warning about. This is why the occasion has been moved inside tomorrow. I had a little chat with our very own Nigel Farage this morning. We started by talking about the significant event which some people are attributing to Donald Trump himself, the release of the Israeli hostages. Here's what Nigel had to say. You look emotional talking about it.
Oh, no, I feel for her. I feel for her.
Wow, I look forward to that in just a moment, Bev. We're going to get her with that exclusive very soon. But tonight, I'm joined by my superstar panel, Annunziata Rees-Mogg, Diana Moran and Paul Richards, who will be giving their expert opinions and thoughts on all of tomorrow's front page news. When will the Mayor of London just shut up? Next.
Alex, thank you and good evening. The top stories. Thousands of Donald Trump supporters waited for hours in the cold, rain and the snow to attend his victory rally taking place today, a day before the president-elect returns to the White House. The soon-to-be 47th president arrived in Washington last night with his wife Melania ahead of his inauguration tomorrow. Trump is hosting a Make America Great Again rally in downtown Washington, although a counter-rally also took place yesterday with thousands attending to protest the incoming president. We have just been told that Donald Trump has now arrived at the Capital One Arena, where he's due to speak a little later. 3 Israeli hostages released from Hamas captivity today have been reunited with their families. Sakir Starmer says their release, including British citizen Emily Damari, is wonderful news after months of agony for them and their families. Earlier today, the Red Cross said they were all in good health. All 3 are now currently at the Sheba Hospital in Israel. Emily's mother has thanked everyone who never stopped fighting for her throughout this horrendous ordeal. She said her daughter is finally home. There were chaotic scenes in Gaza City as the 3 female hostages were released after more than 470 days in captivity. Along with the 28-year-old are 2 other named hostages, 24-year-old Romy Gonen and 31-year-old Doron Steinbrecher, who were also freed today. The Israeli Prime Minister's office says 4 other living hostages will be released in 7 days' time. As those hostages were released after 15 long months, there were cheers and tears from crowds in Tel Aviv. There are still many others yet to be released at a later stage. In response to the ceasefire being enacted earlier today, terror group Hamas fighters gathered in Gaza in order to celebrate. Videos released from the region show members of the Hamas armed wing chanting and celebrating as the delayed truce came into effect this morning. Aid trucks have been entering into Gaza since the ceasefire was enacted. Displaced Palestinians have now begun returning to their homes, and 90 further Palestinians are set to be released today. Some news into us this hour that a murder investigation has been launched after a 43-year-old woman was found dead in a flat in Woolwich in southeast London. Blunt force trauma and head injury were given as the cause of death. Detectives believe the woman knew her attacker and are trying to find a named individual. More on this as we get it. And finally, a new portrait of the Duchess of Edinburgh has been released to celebrate her 60th birthday. Sophie reaches the milestone birthday tomorrow and will celebrate the occasion privately at home with her husband, the Duke of Edinburgh. The photo, taken at Bagshot Park, shows the Duchess wearing a black turtleneck and a pleated cream skirt. Those are the latest GB News headlines. For now, more from me in an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
With the inauguration of Donald Trump less than 24 hours away, Labour's Mayor of London went on, and in my view, an all-out, unhinged attack on the president-elect. Sadiq Khan, in an article written for The Guardian this weekend, has compared democratically elected leaders like Donald Trump to the fascist regimes of the 1930s. Yeah, you heard that right. He's throwing around Nazi comparisons to attack political opponents who don't share his views. In my opinion, this is not only irresponsible, it's downright dangerous and inflammatory. In his article, Khan claims we need to defend our democracy and enhance the welfare of our communities. Of course, he goes on to praise his own policies of free school meals, fare freezes, and the 50,000 council homes built since he became mayor. But it seems like the mayor has selective memory, because he forgot to mention the millions blown on renaming tube lines and the thousands spent on woke statues in Trafalgar Square. Ironically, I'd say these are all left-wing populist policies, aren't they, Mr. Mayor? In what way are they enhancing the welfare of communities? If anything, they've been seen by many as completely divisive. And while Khan's out pretending to be some kind of political martyr for democracy, he's unashamedly dodging the real crisis facing London. Just a few days ago, he couldn't even define or answer a straightforward question about grooming gangs in London.
I asked you this question last week and you found every which way but not to answer it. Just how many grooming gangs have we got in London?
To avoid any misunderstanding, can she define what she means by that?
Yes, if you look at what's gone on in Rotherham, where there are people taking young girls, grooming them for sex, that is what I'm talking about.
We know in London there are issues about exploitation of young people, but they're not as defined by the member in her definition of what those types of gangs are.
Yeah, all while, under his watch, a rape is reported every hour in London, and knife crime has doubled in his first term. These are real issues affecting real people. Nobody gives a toss about the renaming of the Underground. They just want to live in a safe city. But maybe it's important that the mayor is reminded of his place. He is a regional mayor of a city within the UK with layers of more important diplomats, world leaders and governments in front of him. And for all intents and purposes, I'd assume to Donald Trump and the rest of the world, he's considered an absolute nobody. In fact, even the Labour government's Treasury Secretary, Darren Jones, slapped down Sadiq's statement. What our once great capital city desperately needs is someone who's going to tackle real issues head on, not someone who I believe is hiding behind seemingly hysterical, inflammatory language and left-wing populism. Well, to talk about this a little bit further, I'm joined now by former editor of Labour List, Peter Edwards. Peter, you don't think Khan's done anything wrong, do you?
We've all got a responsibility to use language carefully, but Sadiq Khan, first of all, he's got a personal mandate of over 1 million votes, one of the largest in Europe. And secondly, specifically on this point about the far right, Donald Trump, I wouldn't call Donald Trump a fascist. I would just call him someone who's deeply distasteful and sexist and at times bigoted. But for example, the ban on people from Muslim nations entering America, last time was the president, Donald Trump has also retweeted videos from Britain First, a far-right outfit. He has ties and links to some deeply unpleasant organisations and has been behind some deeply unpleasant policies. It's quite right that the Mayor of London, who's a figurehead and does have a national platform, is allowed to speak out about that.
Well, I mean, look, he's defined Donald Trump as fascist or, you know, as part of a surge of fascism. He clearly doesn't understand what the word fascism even means, does he? Because democratic elections are not fascism, are they? Do you think he just doesn't know the definition of the word?
Well, I wouldn't use that word, but Donald Trump clearly has given cover to the far right. Remember, he's retweeted far-right videos.
Peter, far-right and fascist are not the same thing. There's no clear definition of the word far-right. It's used to describe anybody and their dog these days. When I was talking about whether Sadiq Khan knows the definition of fascism or he doesn't know it, whether he knows it at all.
Well, he does, and you might be talking about someone's dog, but I'm not talking about anyone's dog. You have to bear in mind, Sadiq Khan is entitled to speak out. it's just a fact that Donald Trump has given cover to far-right organisations. But also, Sadiq Khan has been subject to bigotry and Islamophobia for much of his working political life. So why would it not be appropriate for him to speak out? He's entitled to his views, and he's got a mandate to do so.
OK, well, yeah, he's entitled to say what he wants. I believe in his right to free speech, but he's very critical of people using inflammatory language. Now, he's comparing democracies to Nazism in the 1930s. He can't define what a grooming gang is. He had 10 instances that I saw on the Greater London Assembly's website where he still can't answer the question, or at least runs around it or passes it off to the Met. Someone help me here. I mean, he's using inflammatory language, surely. Let's just start on that. Calling democracies Nazis is mad.
I haven't been watching London mayoral questions. I follow politics very closely, but watching the GLA questions is perhaps slightly beyond even my own level of being a political anorak. But again, Sadiq Khan is completely entitled to speak out about Donald Trump giving cover to the far right. Some might say he's used inflammatory language. I don't think he has. And, bear in mind this other point. Sadiq Khan was elected a third time. She's been re-elected twice. That's never happened to a London mayor before. And secondly, in every poll you look at, British voters are deeply uncomfortable and opposed to Donald Trump and his policies.
Well, I mean, Sadiq Khan's, said that Donald Trump is a populist and has populist policies. Sadiq Khan has populist policies. Surely they're just left-wing populism, aren't they? They're just a different brand of populism. Renaming the tube to cost of millions.
No.
Yeah, of course it is. What's the point? That's just trying to make a marketing ploy to appease the left wing. That's populism, is it not?
No, I mean, it's by the way, it's on a point of pedantry. It's the London Overground rather than the tube.
Well, OK, we can be pedantic about the... But I'm trying to make sure the audience understand what we're talking about. But yes, not for the London-centric.
On a train line within London, I travel on the Orange Line every day. No one cares at all about the name of it. I think it's a good thing to do, but you couldn't have called that populist. You could call it the opposite, technical, or a point of principle that I think has validity, but I suspect it won't be noticed by many people. So no,
I think it was noticed by a lot of people, Peter. The whole country was talking about it. The only people that actually liked it were the left. That's populism. It's left-wing populism.
Well, again, there are other perspectives beyond those in this channel. I've been a parliamentary candidate several times, campaigned for Labour for about 20 years. No one has ever mentioned on the doorstep the names of London train lines.
Yeah, well, there we go. Anyway, look, thank you, Peter, for coming on. I really appreciate it. And let's get the thoughts of my panel. We've got the head of communications at Popular Conservatism, Annuncia Rees-Mogg. Annunciata, I'm going to get your name right tonight. I'm so sorry, Rees-Mogg. Anyway, fitness expert and journalist, dubbed the Green Goddess, Diana Moran, and former Labour Special Advisor, Paul Richards. I mean, look, Paul, Sadiq Khan has been mayor for a very, very long time. I believe a lot of his policies are populist. Donald Trump has come under fire from Sadiq Khan today, calling him, part of this resurgence of fascism. He's a democratically elected leader. Sadiq Khan's wrong, isn't he?
Well, Sadiq Khan's also a democratically elected leader, and I have to say it's not language I would have used, because I think calling each other fascists or Nazis, or that's not the kind of discourse I personally favour. But the broader point he's making about democracy being a fragile thing, a relatively new thing in most of the Western democracies, we've only had it for 100 years here, and it can be taken away again, I think is a valid point, because unless you are eternally vigilant and you are constantly refreshing your democracy, it may well disappear.
I mean, Annunciata, listen, Donald Trump just won a landslide election. This is so deeply out of touch with reality, isn't it?
And not just Donald Trump, because in fact Sadiq Khan branded most of the West in the same way, and are people tending across numerous countries to vote in a more right-wing way? Yes. Is that because the left has failed them and proven yet again it's not got the interests of the people at heart? Yes, probably true. But I think the inflammatory language of an elected leader, as Paul calls him rightly, saying the far right is on the march, these are deeply worrying times, increasingly finding the echoes of the 1920s and 30s in the present day, the spectre of resurgent fascism haunts the West. To ward off the far right, we must be unflinching. This is not the language of a moderate leader. It is clearly inflammatory. It is, after all, Sadiq Khan who gave permission for a 20-foot blimp of Trump as a baby to be paraded around the streets of London when he came to visit. I think making the relationship even poorer, just as Trump is revolutionising the future of our relationship with America, is very worrying.
It's very worrying stuff. Diana, listen.
I think it's very worrying. They've obviously got a total dislike of one another, disdain for one another.
Clearly. But, you know, is this just a distraction from the real issues, Diana? Is this a distraction by Sadiq Khan? Because we've got knife crime soaring, we've got sexual assaults, one rape reported every hour.
Yes, of course, he's got that as well. But what worries me, I'm an old person, and, you know, the Nazi business was there when I was a young girl. And to hear talk of all that sort of thing coming, you know, being talked about now, it's just dreadful to me. Dreadful.
Paul, final comment to you on this one. Sadiq Khan, of course, has made a big song and dance about this. He's gone out and done it right on the weekend.
Well, look,
the inauguration. Is he just trying to scupper?
This is the home of. This is not the home of free speech, isn't it? I mean, he's entitled to write an article in whatever newspaper it was.
It wasn't. I mean, Keir Starmer's doing his best. I mean, the Treasury Secretary came out and slammed him.
Well, I think. I mean, Darren Jones made an equally good point, which is that the language was not the right language. He's making a good point. He's made it in a bad way. The timing's not great, but he's entitled to do it.
OK, look, we'll leave it there. We've got more coming up with my great panel very soon. But now it's time for our biggest Great British giveaway this year. And your chance to win £50,000 in tax-free cash. It's the biggest cash prize we've ever given away, and it could be yours. Here are all the details you need to win that whopping 50k cash.
There's just 2 weeks left to grab your chance to win our biggest cash prize so far. £50,000 in tax-free cash. How would you react if you won?
Oh my God.
That's a big surprise.
Amazing. Just the best feeling ever.
I'm in shock. That is absolutely fantastic.
Thank you.
For another chance to win £50,000 cash, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st.
OK, let's cross live to Washington. Donald Trump is speaking right now.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. We won. We won. Thank you very much, everybody. What a good feeling. We like winning, don't we, huh? We're going to make our country greater than ever before. Hello, Washington, and hello, America. We're all over America. I'm thrilled to be back with so many friends, supporters, and true American patriots on the eve of taking back our country. That's what we're going to do, take back our country. Tomorrow at noon, the curtain closes on 4 long years of American decline, and we begin a brand new day of American strength and prosperity, dignity and pride. Bringing it all back Once and for all, we're going to end the reign of a failed and corrupt political establishment in Washington, a failed administration. We're not going to take it anymore. We're going to stop the invasion of our borders. We're going to reclaim our wealth. We're going to unlock the liquid gold that's right under our feet, liquid gold. We're going to bring back law and order to our cities. We're going to restore patriotism to our schools, get radical left, woke ideologies the hell out of our military and out of our government. And we are going to make America great again. I want to thank the tens of thousands of incredible men and women who have come from all over the nation to take part in this very special moment. And I just heard in watching some of the coverage that there are rallies like this taking place all over the country. People are happy. People are happy. It's been a long time. None of this would have been possible without you and the millions of hardworking citizens who have joined our cause. You know, right over there, just noticed a group of beautiful ladies, beautiful women from North Carolina, right here too. I don't know how the hell they've been to 167 rallies. You believe it? You think their husbands are happy about that? I don't know. But they look beautiful. They're incredible people, and they love our country. Thank you very much. Then up here I see we have front row Joes all over the place. Uncle Sam, Mr. Wall. Oh boy, oh boy. But we've been through so much together, and for the next 4 years I will fight for you every single day. We're going to be fighting for you. This is the greatest political movement in American history. And 75 days ago, we achieved the most epic political victory our country has ever seen. That's what they say. We won the popular vote for the first time of any Republican in many, many years. We swept all 7 swing states by big numbers. We won Pennsylvania, we won Georgia, we won North Carolina, we won Michigan, we won Wisconsin, we won Arizona, we won Nevada. We won them all by historic margins, and we won the great state of Florida by 13 points. Nobody's done that ever. And a record that will never be broken. All 50 states shifted toward the Republican Party, the first time that that's ever happened. All 50 states. We won the largest number of African-American voters in Republican Party history. We won more Hispanic-American votes than any Republican has ever gotten before by a lot. And we won Latino men and women, and on top of that, youth, men, women, urban, suburban, rural, and people from everywhere in between are joining us in record numbers. We've never had anything like this. Too big to rig, that's what I used to say. Too big to rig. We made it too big. Oh, and they tried. They tried. It was too big. Around 9:02, they just said, let's get the hell out of here. This isn't working. They were swamped, to put it nicely. We also took back the U.S. Senate. We had some great people running. And the House Republicans won their largest popular vote majority in presidential year since 1928. We had a lot of people voting. So the Senate, the House Republicans, we got all 3 of them. A little bit close on those 2. Senate's in great shape. House Republicans, actually, they both have great leaders. They both have great people heading. John Thune is fantastic, and If you look at Mike Johnson, he's got a pretty tight majority, but actually it's very tight, but it's very good because we vote unified. We're really voting unified, and so it doesn't make much difference. In the election of 2024, which will be the most consequential election in American history, we not only won a mandate, but we built a new American majority that will lead our country to unparalleled success for generations to come. That's what we want to do. And someday, in 30 years from now, 40 years from now, 50 years from now, some of these young people are going to say, I remember Donald Trump, he did a good job. He set us on his way. He told us, he gave us a path. Our new administration will inherit disasters at home and abroad, an economy plagued by inflation and high interest rates, a catastrophic border crisis. Nobody can believe they let people in. They have an open border policy. Do you think that makes sense? Open borders. Anybody wants to. Jails, prisons, mental institutions, gangs being emptied right through that ugly open border. A government that cannot care for its citizens in a time of emergency. Look at what's happening in Los Angeles. Look at what's happening in North Carolina. They've treated them so badly. In a planet on the brink of World War III. It's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. But starting tomorrow, I will act with historic speed and strength and fix every single crisis facing our country. We have to do it. We're not going to have a country left. Before even taking office, you are already seeing results that nobody expected to see. Everyone is calling it I don't want to say this, it's too braggadocious, but we'll say it anyway. The Trump effect. It's you're the effect. Since the election, the stock market has surged and small business optimism has soared a record 41 points to a 39-year high. Bitcoin has shattered one record high after another. The major investment company known as DMAC, the properties, has announced that it will be investing between $20 and $40 billion in the United States, and SoftBank, another great company, has pledged between $100 and $200 billion. These are all investments that are only being made because of the fact that we won the election. Going to create jobs for hundreds of thousands, even millions of Americans. Today I spoke with Tim Cook of Apple. He said they're going to make a massive investment in the United States because of our big election win. And as of today, TikTok is back. So, you know, I did a little TikTok thing. We have a guy, TikTok Jack. He's a young kid, like 21 years old. And we hired this guy, and I went on TikTok. Can you believe what I'll do to win an election? And we went on TikTok, and Republicans have never won the young vote, the youth vote. They win a lot of votes, but they never won the youth vote. We won the youth vote by 36 points. So I like TikTok. I like it. I like it. I had a slightly good experience, wouldn't you say? Romney lost it by 40 points. Not so long ago, we won it by 36 points. That's a very big spread. But I said we need to save TikTok because we're talking about a tremendous... Who in this audience goes with TikTok? Many? Yeah, very popular. And frankly, we have no choice. We have to save it. A lot of jobs. We don't want to give our business to China. We don't want to give our business to other people. And I said, you know, TikTok without my approval, meaning the president's approval, because Congress gave the president the right to make a deal, do whatever he wants. And they did that a long time ago when they had a different president. They didn't know that I was going to be the president, I guess. So I said, very simply, a joint venture. So if TikTok is worth nothing, zero, without an approval. You know, if you don't approve, they're out of business, they're worth nothing. If you do approve, they're worth...
OK, well, last-minute preparations are taking place in Washington, D.C. You've just seen Trump there. He looks very energised. But as the US braces for his return, who will be inaugurated for his second spell as president tomorrow? That event's now been moved indoors because, as you saw from Bev earlier, those terrible cold weather is coming over. It's reaching lows of minus 11 degrees, I believe. But let's hope GB News' Bev Turner is wrapped up warm. She's joining us live from D.C. Bev, what's the mood on the ground?
Hi, Alex. Well, I'm just outside the Capital One building where Donald Trump has just been talking. As you can see, there are many security personnel in position here, understandably. This is a headache for the security services this weekend. 25,000 police and security personnel in the area. Lots of people milling around. There are so many events going on. There's a big TikTok party in town tonight. No doubt the attendants of that will be delighted to hear what Donald Trump just said about the fact that he's had a good experience with TikTok, he says, wouldn't you say? Crediting the social media app with his success in this election. Lots of people were talking on stage this afternoon. Steve Miller, one of his chief advisors, Megyn Kelly, the commentator from America, she was there, and all talking about the fact this is going to be a golden age for America, is how they are describing it. I'm just going to lose my umbrella here. I think the snow has stopped for now. It's relatively dry here now, Alex. The snow fell absolutely. The heavens opened just about an hour or so ago. But it is cold. It's sort of the snow hasn't settled, funnily enough. It's quite sleety, it's quite rainy as well here, but still conditions were deemed to be too difficult to hold the actual inauguration outdoors tomorrow. But as I say, lots of excitement, lots of anticipation here in this city. Lots of people very much on edge as well. You can see how the police are managing any pedestrians around here. They're very cross about the fact that you've got to stay on the sidewalks, you've got to follow the signs. They're not taking any risks whatsoever with anybody being able to get close to that building who should not be. Trump and his family, and will all probably be leaving there very soon, off to fireworks this evening. For Donald Trump. He had some fireworks as well last night, but clearly it's a weekend of celebrations here for any Republicans.
Yeah, Trump looks so energised. We've just been watching the live clips from him at his rally. Do you think we're going to get more of his policy announcements coming up very soon? Of course, there's rumours that the mass deportations, one of his big policies, is starting tomorrow, Bev. What's the mood on the ground? Have you seen any protests against that taking shape? Is it just sporadic across DC?
Do you know, Alex, there was the protest, the People's March yesterday. It came and went. Nobody really noticed it. There were maybe a couple of thousand people here in the city, but there was no major disruption. It kind of went with a fizzle rather than a bang, to be honest. And no, the mood here in the city predominantly is celebratory, I would say. I had an interview with Nigel Farage this afternoon. We're going to play the entire interview on Britain's Newsroom tomorrow morning. And Nigel, of course, has had a lot of contact with most of Trump's team this weekend. I think we've got a couple of clips to show you now. We started by talking particularly about the release of the hostages this morning, particularly the British girl, Emily Damari, and Nigel felt so, actually, emotional about that. Have a quick look.
I'm delighted. I just sent a voice note to Mandy, the mother. I think my voice cracked halfway through it, because what could you say?
Yeah.
It's great news. She looks okay.
You look emotional talking about it.
Oh, no, I feel for her. I feel for her. I feel for the mother. I feel for her. Do you know why I feel for her so much? No one knew there was a British hostage. No one was prepared to stand up and speak. She
wasn't on the front page of the papers.
So I met her in the House of Commons, and, yeah, I did my best to make people aware of what was happening. So, yeah, I'm thrilled for her. I mean, goodness me, I felt for her.
Would that have happened had Kamala Harris won the election?
Not for a minute. And this is Trump's first great victory. You know, he's such an amazing negotiator. You know, he said if the hostages aren't released, they'll be held to pay. They obviously believed him. So even before he sworn the oath of allegiance, his impact is being felt around the world in the most incredible way.
Look at what's happened with I would say Nigel almost had a sense today that it's unbelievable to him the mood here this weekend. I think even he has been shocked by the reception that he's had from the Republicans. We talked about all sorts of things, and he talked about the advice that he might give to Sir Keir Starmer in order to build that relationship. He talked about Russia and Ukraine and what he thinks President Trump might do to bring that conflict to an end. We talked, of course, about the situation in the Middle East as well. He talked about Sadiq Khan, his statement about the fact this is the rise of fascism. He talked about Priti Patel telling GB News that Reform were a pop-up political party. So it was a big chat. It will be on Britain's Newsroom tomorrow morning from 9:30.
Great. Thank you so much, Bev. Stay warm and enjoy the day tomorrow. We'll look forward to hearing more from you on that big interview. You can hear more from Reform UK leader Nigel Farage on Breakfast tomorrow morning and Britain's Newsroom, as Bev said. The exclusive interview with Reform UK leader will air in full on Britain's Newsroom at 9:30 a.m. Coming up, we'll run through tomorrow's very top newspaper front pages with our stellar panel of political pundits. We'll also reveal who Piers Morgan is backing to be the next Prime Minister. You might be shocked. This is Ben Leo Tonight with me, Alex Armstrong.
Hello there, very good evening to you. This is your GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. Hope you've had a lovely weekend, though count yourself lucky if you have seen some sunshine. Most of us have been plagued by gloomy and grey skies, and this is continuing into this evening and overnight. There'll be some outbreaks of light rain and drizzle around, particularly for Northern Ireland and Western Scotland. Eastern Scotland, other areas of England and Wales could see the cloud breaking at times tonight, but underneath those clearer spells, temperatures will drop off and we could see some patchy frost around to start off Monday morning. Even if you don't see the frost, it is certainly going to be a chilly start to the new week for the vast majority of us. There could be also some mist and fog patches around first thing, so it is just worth taking a little care when you're travelling back to work on Monday morning in case those are around. These outbreaks of rain then will be across coastal areas of County Down, stretching into Dumfries and Galloway in the central belt of Scotland first thing on Monday. Northern and western areas of Scotland starting to see some clearer and brighter spells developing, and really it is northern Scotland that has the greatest chance of seeing some sunshine on Monday. This will be coming though with some showers that will start feeding into the far northwest. Some of those could be quite heavy at times, with some hail, even thunder in the mixture as well. The outbreaks of rain just pushing their way into northern England, stretching into parts of Wales as well. Otherwise, it is once again going to be a largely cloudy day. Temperatures ranging between 4 and 9 degrees Celsius. On Tuesday, we see an area of low pressure just push its way a little bit further towards the northwest of the UK, and an included front here will help to pep up some of those showers across northwestern areas of Scotland in particular. So again, it's a case of scattered showers with some brighter or sunnier spells here once any of that morning fog clears its way off. We've got another band that will still be lingering across more central and northern areas of England into Tuesday, but perhaps elsewhere Tuesday will see the greater chance of some sunshine developing at times. But it won't last for too long, because into the rest of next week it is likely to turn more unsettled with some disruption on Friday and Saturday. Bye-bye.
I'm Stephen Dixon, and thanks for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Ben Leo Tonight with me, Alex Armstrong, only on GB News. Now it's time to bring you tomorrow's news. Tonight, in the most entertaining paper review on telly, the very first front pages have been delivered for my press pack. Let's have a look at the Metro first. Home at last as the fighting stops after 15 months. They're leading with that historic ceasefire and trade of hostages. Let's move on to The Guardian. A very similar story in The Guardian as hostages out as truce holds. Three Israeli women freed by Hamas under prisoner swap deal. Hundreds of trucks queued to deliver aid and supplies to Gaza. The Mirror, very similar. Gaza hostage released out of the darkness back in mum's arms. Brit freed in ceasefire deal as aid heads to desperate Palestinians. The Eye, also leading with a very similar headline. Historic hostage swap begins in Middle East as world readies for Trump 2.0. The Daily Telegraph, they're actually one of the only outliers here. Of course, they're going with a big shot of that reunions as Emily comes home. Alison Pearson's got a story on that. We've also got Starmer races for Trump trade deal, having architected the Chagos deal in PM's mini-cabinet. It could complicate efforts to woo the new president. And the Daily Express leads also British hostage Emily Damari among 3 released in Gaza ceasefire. Home after 471 days in hell. Look, I mean, we have to go for a quick comment on these, but isn't it a relief to see so many hostages finally coming home in Annunciata?
Of course it is, and one's heart absolutely goes out to those families. But I don't think we can forget all the others who haven't had the news they wanted and are still waiting. We hear there will be another group in 7 days' time, but the hostages really need to all be allowed to go home.
Yeah, Diana?
Absolutely wonderful news for the 3 and for their families. Obviously, I think we're all family people. We can appreciate the mother's relief for her daughter. But, exactly as you're saying, we can't forget everything else that's gone on and all the others who maybe aren't going to be making it.
Yeah, Paul, listen, it's a difficult one. There's lots of people still waiting. We're hoping that this ceasefire holds because, of course, Netanyahu's threatened to continue the war if it doesn't. Do you think this is a very fragile truce?
It's extremely fragile, and I think we're reminded of the monsters who would take hostages like this, including babies, as well as women and children, civilians, and then hold them in this way as bargaining chips. 3 out is fantastic, but, you know, there are scores and scores still in these dungeons and in these prisons who don't know what's going on and who knows how they're being treated. So, you know, it is good to see 3 released, and we celebrate that, but let's not forget who we're dealing with here.
Yeah, I suspect this is going to be a really bittersweet moment for many people. Some of those, I mean, I suspect those hostages are going to come back with traumatic, life-changing...
Totally life-changing.
You know,
mentally,
I can only
physically.
imagine. And I suspect their stories are going to come out as well.
Well, we know Hamas used rape, don't we, as a method, as a tool of war, because they did when they invaded southern Israel. But, I mean, there may be babies having been born in captivity because of rape.
And also, as part of the deal, prisoners from Israel are being released who have murdered, raped Israelis. And so their families are having also this bittersweet... Of course, they will be glad that some have come home, but the people who murdered and tortured their loved ones are being released. And, you know, it's come at a price.
Yeah, it's always so difficult because we want to celebrate these moments, but my heart always goes out to those people who aren't going to get that relief right now. And I know we all want to think this is over, but I think this is the start of a very, very long transition period. Anything could happen if there's more missiles fired, if there's war could restart, the rest of those poor hostages.
And, you know, Alex, you saw Hamas there with guns celebrating on the streets. They haven't been defeated, have they? They think they've won.
Jubilant, weren't they?
Right.
Jubilant. Yeah, it's scary stuff. OK, coming up, we'll bring you more of tomorrow's front pages, as well as revealing how some British shoppers dealt with those terrifying and irritating militant vegans. This is Ben Leo Tonight with me, Alex Armstrong, only on GB News.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
If you were hoping to escape to the Mediterranean this week for some sunshine, I'm afraid you might be disappointed. It is quite unsettled at the moment. A storm system just off the coast of Iberia is bringing outbreaks of heavy rain for parts of Madeira, the Canary Islands into Portugal and Spain. We've also got the remnants of Storm Gabrielle still lingering around parts of Italy, bringing some heavy showers here, also through the Adriatic as well. These heavy showers could continue over the next few days, but it might turn a touch more settled further west later on.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. We're going live to Elon Musk on the stage at that Trump rally. Here he is.
Significant changes, cement those changes, and set the foundation for America to be strong for a century, for centuries, forever. So. And make America great again. Yeah. So, yeah. So anyway, we're gonna do great things here. Thank you.
Thank you, Elon. You know, I always say we have to be protective of our geniuses because we don't have too many, but that one is a good one. Now, I watched his rocket come down about 3 months ago, and I thought it was crashing. I was talking to somebody on the phone. By the way, same thing happened yesterday. It came down, and it was captured so beautifully. It came down, it's tumbling, it's a mess, it's going down. I say, oh, look at that thing, that's a disaster. And then it gets like a couple of miles away from Earth, and all of a sudden the engines start going on, the things start, and then I see it coming in and landing in the gantry, and I'm watching it, I'm saying, oh, it's gonna crash, oh, but those engines came out and they blew the fire all over the place, and all of a sudden those two big arms came and hugged it like you would hug your little baby, and that sucker landed, and nobody's been able to do that but him. And he's a great guy, and we have him and Vivek and some great people working on a thing called costs, and he's got the credibility to do it too. And we're going to do things that are really amazing. But he went out to Pennsylvania after that. He landed that rocket nobody had ever seen. By the way, China can't do it, Russia can't do it, or come close. It will be 10 years before they can do it. And the U.S. can't do it except for him. And it's pretty amazing. But he did that, and then he journeyed to Pennsylvania, where he spent like a month and a half campaigning for me in Pennsylvania. And he's a popular guy, and he was very effective. And he knows those computers better than anybody, all those computers, those vote-counting computers. And we ended up winning Pennsylvania like in a landslide, so it was pretty good. It was pretty good. So thank you to Elon. And his son's name, who's cute as a button, his son's name is X. He's the only guy who could get away with the name X. But his son is a great guy. One thing we know, his son is smart. If you believe in the racehorse theory, he's got a nice, smart son. But thank you very much to Elon and everybody. We've had so much help. Every radical and foolish executive order of the Biden administration will be repealed within hours of when I take the oath of office. Oh, you're going to have a lot of fun watching television tomorrow. Somebody said yesterday, sir, don't sign so many in one day. Let's do it over a period of weeks. I said, like hell, we're going to do it over weeks. We're going to sign them at the beginning. You know that old story. Let's do it later, then it never gets done. No, we're doing them tomorrow. And we'll have plenty to sign in the future. Don't worry about it. It's not going to stop. But we're going to stop the destructive and divisive diversity, equity, and inclusion mandates all across the government and private sector and return our country to the merit system. You know, the Supreme Court ruled that the United States is allowed to go by the merit system, which is what made us great in the first place. That was a big ruling that a lot of people don't even know about, but it was a big, tremendous ruling. And you're focusing on character, competence, and qualifications in all hiring decisions. Now you're allowed to go by competence and ability and genius.
OK, we've just seen Donald Trump and Elon Musk there. I mean, it's quite an interesting match, them two. Of course, many are saying it's a match made in heaven. Paul, some saying it's a match made in hell. What do you think? Is it all going to...
Well, the Don there saying that he's a genius. I think when he talks about politics, Elon Musk is an absolute halfwit. And the stuff he said about our own system here shows he doesn't understand it at all. And also, by the way, that is a disaster waiting to happen. They're going to fall out within weeks. The ticker is on before the massive clash of egos creates a bit of a combustion.
Diana, do you think they're going to fall out in the long run?
I just cannot understand it. What is it they say? Money talks. What is that guy doing in such an important place at such an important time? We knew nothing about it. Well, not anything about politics before.
No.
And there he is, taking centre stage. Was that his child as well?
I believe it was one of his children.
Oh, for goodness sake.
I think it was X.
That's right, it was, yes.
Which I have an unusual name myself, but I'm quite glad my parents didn't limit it to one letter. With a series of numbers, if I recall correctly.
Correct. It is. I won't attempt to pronounce it because I have no idea.
No idea. No, nor do I. And I think half of what Elon Musk says is utter nonsense, and the other half is sheer genius, and that is exactly why he's in the position he is. And actually, do we owe him a bit of thanks on bringing grooming gangs quite to the level of vision that it ended up having in this country and pushing towards the inquiry we so desperately need? Yes, we do. I think Donald Trump and Elon Musk probably both want to use each other for different but similar ends. They are both massive egos. Of course they are, and two egos will always clash. But if they want the same things, they can also make incredible things happen.
Well, that's true. Paul, look, we had that conversation about free speech earlier on. Of course, Elon Musk is what he would call a bastion of free speech. But focusing on something a little bit more interesting. Elon and Farage have fallen out. They're now in the same city. I was asking Zia Yusuf about this last night. Do you think they're going to kiss and make up, or do you think it's all over?
No, I think it's possible, because I think Elon Musk just makes his mind up each day as to what he's going to do and say. I don't think he's particularly consistent, so I can see them getting back together again, actually.
Interesting. Diana, what do you think?
Well, I just think the whole thing's crazy to have, on such an important occasion, to have this other person coming in on it.
Well, do you think Nigel Farage being there is odd?
Yes, but Nigel isn't trying to take centre stage.
Well, that's true.
Physically
I would assume that Elon Musk's been invited there by Donald Trump. So.
Yeah, but not to be there at the very moment that he's, in front of all the...
Last week, do you think Elon Musk's going to have a really big role in this, or do you think it's going to diminish as he's got to run all these other things?
I think Trump absolutely believes in cutting the state, and Elon is at the front of that. But I wish we could have 10% of the belief in our own country that the American politicians have in theirs. We need the energy and enthusiasm.
Yes, I think we should get a Doge here in the UK, Department of Government Efficiency. We desperately need it. Anyway, coming up next is Headliners. Leo, what have you got coming up on your great show?
Fantastic show coming up, Alex. We've got two Headliners OGs, Simon Evans and Paul Cox on. Jeremy Corbyn has been called in for a police interview after there was some argy-bargy at the pro-Palestine rally. I'm not certain it was Jeremy Corbyn causing it. I think if you get beaten up by Jeremy Corbyn, you need to look at your standards in the police force. We've also got Trump not even in power yet, and the Democrats have already handed him a propaganda coup by making him the saviour of TikTok. And we've got a teacher who's gone into hiding because of Islamists, not because of a cartoon of Muhammad now, it's because of lies based on AI that were spread by Ahmed Yaqub, the lawyer for the Manchester attackers.
Fantastic stuff. Well, thank you, Leo. Look forward to the show. Thank you to my fantastic panel. Thank you to the gallery for looking after me. And thank you all for looking after me while I look after Ben's show. He's back next week, and I'll see you as my regular panel night. See you soon.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, very good evening to you. This is your GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. Hope you've had a lovely weekend, though count yourself lucky if you have seen some sunshine. Most of us have been plagued by gloomy and grey skies, and this is continuing into this evening and overnight. There'll be some outbreaks of light rain and drizzle around, particularly for Northern Ireland and Western Scotland. Eastern Scotland, other areas of England and Wales could see the cloud breaking at times tonight, but underneath those clearer spells, temperatures will drop off and we could see some patchy frost around to start off Monday morning. Even if you don't see the frost, it is certainly going to be a chilly start to the new week for the vast majority of us. There could be also some mist and fog patches around first thing, so it is just worth taking a little care when you're travelling back to work on Monday morning in case those are around. These outbreaks of rain then will be across coastal areas of County Down, stretching into Dumfries and Galloway in the central belt of Scotland first thing on Monday. Northern and western areas of Scotland starting to see some clearer and brighter spells developing, and really it is northern Scotland that has the greatest chance of seeing some sunshine on Monday. This will be coming though with some showers that will start feeding into the far northwest. Some of those could be quite heavy at times, with some hail, even thunder in the mixture as well. The outbreaks of rain just pushing their way into northern England, stretching into parts of Wales as well. Otherwise, it is once again going to be a largely cloudy day. Temperatures ranging between 4 and 9 degrees Celsius. On Tuesday, we see an area of low pressure just push its way a little bit further towards the northwest of the UK. And an included front here will help to pep up some of those showers across northwestern areas of Scotland in particular. So again, it's a case